Nobody wants Trudeau to negotiate this deal. I don't want him doing it for me, so I'm going to go to Mar-a-Lago. I'll start the narrative. The 41 million Canadians, I think most of them would trust me on this deal.
All right, listen, we've been having fun with this whole Canada's becoming our 51st state thing. We had fun with it yesterday. We saw the president's greeting where he tweaked Governor Justin Trudeau a little bit about it again. It all came from, you'll remember, Justin Trudeau coming down hat in hand to Mar-a-Lago to beg Donald Trump not to raise tariffs on Canada. Trump threatened to do that if he didn't secure the northern border and do something about the flow of fentanyl, et cetera, et cetera. Trudeau's big argument was, you can't do that to us because you'll harm our economy. And Trump said, that's it? That's your argument? Well, maybe you shouldn't be so reliant on our economy. Maybe there's an imbalance here in our relationship. Maybe you'll be better off being our 51st state, which is just the greatest troll. And now he's continued it. But now a funny thing has happened. Canadians are starting to speak out, some of them very prominent, and they're saying, not a bad idea, actually. Let's explore this a little further. Maybe the time has come. Maybe it's weird that America stopped making territories into states in the late 50s. Maybe it doesn't make any sense that we had all this expansion and all these territories and all these new states, and then at the 50th state, we just stopped. Why is that? Why haven't we continued to build our nation and, fulfill our destiny here on the North American continent? Let's hear from Kevin O'Leary. Now, Kevin O'Leary is a businessman, a financial guru. You know him as Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank, and he's got very strong opinions about lots of stuff. And he was on Fox Business saying, 51st state, Canada becomes part of America? Sign me up.
There's 41 million Canadians, basically the population of California, sitting on the world's largest amounts of all resources, including the most important, energy and water. Canadians over the holidays, the last 2 days, have been talking about this. They want to hear more. And so, there's obviously a lot of issues, more details, but what this could be is the beginning of an economic union. Think about the power of combining the two economies, erasing the border between Canada and the United States, and putting all that resource up to the northern borders where China and Russia are knocking on the door. So secure that, give a common currency, figure out taxes across the board, get everything trading both ways, create a new, almost EU-like passport. I like this idea, and at least half of Canadians are interested. The problem is the government's collapsing in Canada right now. Nobody wants Trudeau to negotiate this deal. I don't want him doing it for me, so I'm going to go to Mar-a-Lago. I'll start the narrative. The 41 million Canadians, I think most of them would trust me on this deal.
I'm sorry, this is too fun. Did he just say that over half of Canadians are interested? They're not on board, but they're at least interested in exploring the idea. If that's true, that's astounding. And he said that he's going to personally go down to Mar-a-Lago and begin the discussions with Trump on a serious level about this. Now, of course, he has no actual role in the Canadian government, and maybe he's just trying to get attention. But he made some interesting points there. First of all, did you know that Canada is America's #1 trading partner? I know everybody thinks it's China, and it's not true, at least the last time I checked. Canada is still our #1 trading partner. In fact, that includes oil. Everybody assumes that we're reliant on Saudi Arabia for our oil and foreign countries. And there was a time when we were getting a lot from Venezuela and Mexico. Canada, I believe, is now our #1 supplier of oil. They got great natural resources up in Canada. So we're getting oil from Canada. They're our #1 trade partner. And yet we have this stupid currency issue. Well, we got Canadian dollars and American dollars. And I don't know if I used to live in Detroit. We used to go to Canada all the time. It's a thing. You go there for, cheap beer. And you got to deal with a currency exchange. It's stupid. They got Canadian dollars, they got American dollars. O'Leary just said, listen, how about we have one currency? How about that? How about that? And it sounds like he's talking almost like an EU thing. And I know the EU is a problem with Brussels making laws that are so far removed from the actual European people that they're affecting, and they're elitist and they're socialist, and it's stupid. But there were a couple of good things about the EU. One of them, it turns out, is the common currency. The euro has actually been a good idea, and the ability to move across borders within all of those European countries without all of the passport issues that you used to have. That's also been a benefit for the EU, and that's sort of, it sounds like, one of the things that Leary's looking to address here: a better flow of human beings going back and forth across the American and Canadian border without the currency issues. And as he said, we can then focus on our northern border instead of worrying about this border between Canada and America. Now, is there a way to achieve that without actually annexing Canada and turning them into our 51st, or really it would be probably our 51st or 58th state? Probably. And maybe that's where something like this ends up if it's very real. But I want to talk about that northern border for a moment. Let's be very clear. O'Leary was referring to Canada's northern border, not Canada. You see, Canada's southern border is our northern border. No. He was referring to their northern border. And we here in America, we don't think about our Canada's northern border enough. Too often, we think of the globe in east to west perspectives, because that's how we look at the globe, and that's how we look at world maps, right? We never think about going north to south and going over the top of the globe. Yes, the earth is round. It's not flat. Don't start with me. Okay, fine. If you think the earth is flat, put it in the comment section. That should be fun. So Jack Posobiec, who's a former Navy intel officer and now a great content creator at Human Events, he shared this map, and it's a very important map. So everybody shift your perspective for a second and think about the globe looking above the Arctic Circle. Look at this picture on the left first, okay? You can see Canada is over there on the left side of the picture, along with Alaska. And to the right, you'll see Russia. And of course, just south of Russia is Mongolia and China, right? Now, look at these red and blue lines, all right? These are the trade routes as well as the routes for military ships and warships right now that stretch from Alaska over to Europe and the eastern seaboard of America, just around Greenland there. More on Greenland in a moment. That's where those routes are. So if we're transporting goods from Alaska, we have two choices. We go south to the Panama Canal, or we go across this northern route north of Russia, an adversary, north of China, an adversary, right? And that's how we get to the eastern seaboard, or if we're trading back to Europe. Did you know that Russia has a fleet of ice-breaking ships, a fleet of ships that break up the ice there north of their border in the Northern Sea? Do you know how many of those ships we have? Up until recently, we had one. We are now planning, through the Trump administration, we are planning on constructing for the Coast Guard up to a dozen of these ice-breaking ships to be able to clear lanes in these waters for our commerce and for our military. Now, our submarines are up there. They go underneath the ice. But for our other ships to move, we need to be able to break that ice up. Not over by Russia, no, over by Canada. Take a look at the picture on the right. This shows those trade routes now. Instead of going over by Russia, north of them on the other side of the Arctic Ocean, it shows these routes straight through Canada's northern border and on the western side of Greenland as well. That's a much easier route. It's a much shorter route. It's a much more secure route. And it doesn't make us reliant on Russia. What we need, though, is to break the ice in those passages in the Northwest Passage, and we need to be able to have free, unfettered access for our cargo as well as for our military. This is a national security issue. That's, by the way, why Greenland factors into this as well. It's why Trump is making noise about Greenland. Now, just in terms of a national security perspective, Canada's northern border is vulnerable, and Russia and China are knocking on the door. In fact, China's already in Greenland. That's one of the reasons why Trump's national security people are advising, Greenland is going to be important in the future, decades in the future. But, those decades come on fast. If we have a better, stronger, more mutually beneficial relationship with Canada, and we're cooperating, and we don't have to worry about securing the border between our two nations, maybe we can spend more time focusing on the very real vulnerability up there in Canada's northern border. I mean, the more you think about this, Trump doesn't do anything by accident. The more you think about this whole Canada thing, I guess makes sense. How it works out, I don't know. But I think it's more real than anybody really believes. I think O'Leary's statement actually sort of shines a light on it. Now, before you say it, I want you to know that there is no truth to the reporting from the Babylon Bee that Trump is considering annexing Canada and officially renaming it as Gay North Dakota. We have put all of the town hall media, investigative journalists on this story. We cannot find anyone who will go on the record to verify this report. So the Babylon Bee is alone on this one right now. It's not a bad idea. But as of now, we don't know that that's certain. What we do know is that this would make Tucker Carlson the happiest man on the planet. Do you remember earlier this year? Tucker Carlson has been at war with Justin Trudeau ever since the Canadian government, through Prime Minister Trudeau, cracked down on those Canadian truckers. Remember when they had their protest in Ottawa over the ridiculous COVID restrictions for these truckers who spend all day long alone in the cab of a truck, and yet they were forced to get the vaccine, otherwise they couldn't be truckers anymore. And they were like, literally, we sit alone all day, there is no one in the truck with us, right? And remember, and then their bank accounts got seized by the government because they participated in this strike. So Tucker then, if you remember right, ended up taking his show up to Canada and did some live events, and this is how he announced it to the Trudeau government.
Thank you for your call. You have reached the media line. For all urgent requests, please send your request by email. Merci pour votre appel. Vous avez atteint la ligne médiatique. Merci beaucoup.
Yes, hi. I couldn't understand the French part, but it's Tucker Carlson calling from the United States. And I'd be grateful if you pass a message on to the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. We are coming to liberate Canada. We are coming to liberate Canada. And we'll be there soon. Merci.
I just kind of love that. Listen, a lot of this is fun and games, and a lot of this is joking around. And we know we've got a lot of Canadian viewers, and we like them a lot. And we also like to tweak them a little bit because they've got a great sense of humor. Some of our finest American comedians actually came from Canada. But see, that's part of the thing, isn't it? Like Norm Macdonald was funny when he was Canadian, but he didn't really flourish until he came to America. Why is that? And I tweak Canadians a lot about the fact that they haven't won a Stanley Cup in like 30 years. Las Vegas has won a Stanley Cup more recently than the Maple Leafs have, right? And I'm a Red Wings fan, so it's always fun to tweak the Maple Leafs. But there's something to that. It's an economic reality that if you're a great hockey player and you can demand a huge salary, well, you're going to more likely take a job with the Florida Panthers or the Nashville Predators than with the Montreal Canadiens. Why? But because you get to keep most of your money when you're working in Florida or Tennessee, and you got to give away a lot of your money if you're working in Montreal. That's a very real thing too. Fact of the matter is, the more this discussion continues, it actually kind of makes some sense. There are huge cultural differences. I know that. And I don't think that there's going to be any annexation. I don't think there's going to be any invasion. And I truly don't think that Canada is going to end up being America's 51st state. I think Canada is still going to stay Canada. But I got to tell you, I think that there is an opportunity for an incredibly robust improvement in the relationships of these two countries who have so much in common and could, in fact, increase their trade capabilities, increase and improve their currency issues right now, and ultimately end up both nations being much stronger in the long run. And the fact that very serious people are taking this very seriously, well, it makes us take it rather seriously too. And think about it. it can only improve the hockey up there. So there's that. Listen, we are talking about increased tariffs on our trade partners right now. That's what started this whole thing with Canada. We've got tax cuts coming up, hopefully, and the locking in of the current tax cuts that are supposed to expire at the end of 2025. We've got changes to regulations that Donald Trump has promised. All of this is contributing to the realization that you need to learn more and more about gold right now. It's a viable, the most viable diversification tactic, and you need to know about it now more than ever. Birch Gold, the only gold company that I endorse, is releasing their ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era. It's specifically designed for the era we're about to embark upon. You need to have this information. And to make it even more relevant, the foreword to this ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era was written by Donald Trump Jr. So we're excited to offer you a free copy of this guide, along with Birch Gold's free information kit on gold. All you got to do is text my name, Larry, Larry, text that to 989898. And you get that free guide with the foreword written by Donald Trump Jr., and you get the info kit on gold. Fact is, the national debt continues to increase. Our interest payments on the national debt continue to increase. Gold is still your hedge against a weakened dollar, and Birch Gold is still the company I recommend. They'll help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold with not a penny coming out of your pocket. Text Larry to 989898. Get your free copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era. There is no obligation here, only information. And if you like this show, you like having information, so you can make your big grown-up decisions all by yourself. So do that. Text my name, Larry, to 989898. Thank you for that.